Hi everyone. I'm just adjusting my camera while we wait a couple minutes. But yeah, welcome in. I'm going to be doing the cute little owl with watercolors. This one doesn't have a outline, so don't worry. It's super simple. We're going to sketch it together and then we're going to paint it. I did use a very small paper, but this one's a 9x12. You can use any paper size you like. I've seen a lot of people doing cards, which is really awesome for the holidays. So definitely this is more of a card size, I would say. But you can always paint in whatever size and then kind of take a picture of it and then print it later, something like that. Right? But yeah, so we're going to need a pencil first, an eraser, obviously, if you want to make any adjustments. Yeah. I did that a lot in a couple of years ago. Like I would make a bunch of beautiful watercolor paintings, and then I would, instead of like giving them the original, I would just make prints of it into cards. So yeah, I'm glad you think it's a great idea. Holidays are busy, but making cards is always fun. So for the colors, I'm not going to go too much into it. It's a very small amount of colors, but you can definitely add more. So there's going to be a brown, a dark brown, a lighter brown, and a green, and some red. This red is not the prettiest, so I need to find a better red. This is probably a better red, something like this. But anything to just kind of add a little bit touch of red. There is some splatter at the bottom here that you can add. So that way you can kind of adjust it. Yes, the green definitely looks like aqua. I don't know why it always shows. It's a kind of like a bluish green. So you can kind of play around with your greens. Maybe you want to do a little bit of yellow, but this one definitely is like a forest green. So it definitely has some blue undertones to it. So just keep that in mind. Yeah. Teal, yeah, it kind of looks like teal, and teal would work perfectly fine. It's just to do the little branches here. So it kind of depends on what you're going for. But the pine trees always have like that little bit of bluish green to it, like a foresty green. Okay, but we'll go more in depth about the colors. I can show you a couple of options. My palette is really dirty. Well, it's not dirty, it's just full of paint. So I'm just gonna put that away for now. And then yeah, make sure you have everything that you need. You need a little water bottle. You don't need the spray. I just like to use it to activate my watercolors. And then you need a little cup of water. And in terms of brushes, you just want to use a medium size and a small one. There isn't too many details in this one, so you don't have to worry too much. Yes, thank you. It's true. I always get so subconscious because I try to clean it before the events, but I use it so much, I can't keep up with it. So, all right, so we're going to get started. I'm just getting my little pencil here, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So our little owl here, we're going to actually draw our owl first, and then we'll do the branch because we want to kind of figure out how big it's going to be. So obviously my paper here is a little bit bigger, so I'm going to draw him a little bit bigger. But the first thing you want to do is you want to figure out where he's going to go. So I like to always make a little dot in the middle of my page. You probably can't see that, but you just want to make sure that, no, what do you mean color? Like definitely don't wet it. We're just going to sketch it first and then we're going to color it. Okay? Because you want to sketch it before, and your sketch should be nice and light just so that it's easier to paint on top of it. Yeah, definitely. We're not going to put any water on it just yet. We're going to first sketch, very simple sketch. Nothing crazy. It's not going to be super intense. But yeah, so we're going to start with a little dot here. And then we're going to start shaping our little circle. So he's going to be a cute little owl. You can definitely make him a little bit bigger if your paper is larger. Just depends. I might make him a little bit bigger here. And you can adjust it as you go. So let's say I was like, not big enough, so I just made it a little bit bigger. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So if it's about the same as mine, which is 9 by 12 or 8 by 11, those are pretty good sizes. Now the bottom here, you don't want to close it off really harshly. You can kind of just very lightly kind of do a little, it's very light, I know. So just make sure that you do it nice and light. But because your little owl is going to be very dark, like the feathers are going to be nice and dark, you don't have to worry about it being showing the pencil too much. It just makes it so much easier to erase after. All right, so we have a beautiful little head here. And then, open it up a little bit. You want it to be nice and clean. So it's just going to look like a little bubble. And then we're going to go ahead and start doing the body. So the body is just going to be kind of like a blooming flower. It's just going to start curving a little bit down. And then this side is going to be the same thing. You can make him as puffy as you like. Maybe you want him to be very puffy. The puffier, the cuter, right? I love owls. My friend used to be so afraid of them. She thought they were creepy, but I think they're so cute. And I haven't seen one in a very long time, so. There we go. So we're just going to make him nice and cute and puffy. Yeah. Puffy is cool. I'm glad you agree. So see how I'm just erasing a little bit because I want to make sure it's nice and clean. I don't want it to be too I know everybody gets shy in the chat, but that's okay. Perfect. So it kind of looks like what's that little, is it Boba Fett? I think. It looks very geometrical, right? So don't worry about that because we're gonna soften it up the edges as we go. So don't worry. And you can very lightly close it, but just remember that at the bottom here, you're going to choose where your little claws are going to be coming out from. So we're going to do a curly little shape here. It doesn't have to be super detailed. We're just trying to give it some feet. Okay. Yeah, the claws you can do 2 or you can do 3. I did 2 before, but I think I'm going to add 3 this time. Just because. And then this one. Yeah, so the owl's actually a little bit, what's it called? Like on in an angle kind of, at least my original. So don't worry. This one's, I made him a little bit more straight, I find, but that's okay. I think I made him into an angle before because I wanted to have more, just make it look a little bit more interesting, but so no harm done. There we go. So we have 3 little claws on each side. And don't stress too much about making them look perfect because they're going to be painted on anyway. So they don't have to be perfect by any means. Okay. Perfect. And then I just need to take a sip. Okay. Now, in terms of the little branch, so it can actually start off much thicker and get thinner as it goes out. So that's kind of what you want, right? You want it to be nice and thick at the bottom. So you want to choose where it's going to start coming out from. So I'm actually going to have it come out right here in the corner to make it a little, actually, no, sorry. Because then you want it to be a little bit more straight. So maybe around here, I'm going to have it come out. And then you just make sure it connects to the little feet, right? And make sure it's wobbly. So you don't want it to be nice and straight. You want it to have some texture, right? You want it to be kind of textury. then we're going to start going up this way. And your branch can definitely look much different than mine. Have fun with it. I used to love doing trees and branches because they don't have to be perfect at all. Yeah. They all should be very textured. But the texture we don't have to sketch. We're going to do that with the paint. So that's really good. So you don't have to stress out too much. There we go. I'm just cleaning it up a little bit. So the owl itself is actually not going to have too much details inside because we're gonna paint that, so you don't have to worry about that. But the face, we're actually going to do, you know, where you put that little dot, hopefully in the middle. If it's not in the middle, that's okay. Just figure out where you want the nose to be. But I would say somewhere in the middle is the best way. And if you need to figure out the middle, just kind of, you can use a little ruler. I had a little ruler somewhere, but I can't find it. But you can always do use a ruler to kind of figure out the middle part of it, okay? Yeah, absolutely. So this video will be here for recording. You guys can watch it, do it, try it out afterwards as well. That's totally fine. No problem at all. So I'm going to start doing the little nose right here. And it doesn't have to be completely centered to the face. It just has to be nice and cute. So it looks like a little diamond. Something like that. Yeah, well, live painting can be very... So this one, I think for live videos, I definitely think you can rewind them, which is something I didn't know until I found out from last event. I was like, oh, you can rewind it, but you just can't forward it, obviously. So the nose should be like this type of shape, and then you can do a line across so that it has a division. So one side is going to be dark and the other one's going to be lighter. So it's good for you to know. You don't have to sketch it, but you can. There we go. And then he has a little like helmet thing going on around his face, right? So again, you don't have to do much of a sketch for that, but you want to just very lightly figure out where the little mask is going to be. So maybe right here, and then he's going to come out this way. It's very light, sorry. I'm going to darken it a little bit. So I would normally sketch much lighter than this, but because I want you guys to be able to see it, I'm making it a little bit darker here. And the top part as well is going to have a lot more texture too, right? So don't forget about that. That even though it's nice and round right now, you can lighten it up by erasing a little bit of it. As long as you can still see your own sketch, you're good, okay? So as long as you can still see it, that's okay. Perfect. And you can lighten it up a little bit as well here on the sides. You just want it to be nice and light, especially for areas like the feathers. That way it's not too, what do you call it? It's not too dark for your lines. I know I had a kneaded eraser a while ago and my dog ate it and it was horrible. And thankfully he's a big dog, so he didn't get sick. But yeah, he thought it was food, so he ate it. So now I'm scared of getting another one because I'm scared that he's going to eat it again. He just gets into all my garbage and stuff, and I have to keep him away. Yeah, it was not good. So now I'm a little bit scared of getting another one. All right, so now the fun part is doing the eyes. The eyes is the funnest part because they're so cute and big. You want to make them nice and big. They're going to take up most of his face here, and that's the whole point, right? Yeah. You could also shade this little part right here. Okay, hopefully I'm not going too fast for everybody. Let me know if you need me to slow down a little bit. But the eyes are very simple. You just have to shape them a little bit. Okay, so the eyes, the hardest part about eyes, even in animals, I actually want the nose to be a little bit lower. It's okay. It's fine. Okay, so the eyes are going to start wherever you want them to be. You just want to make sure that they take up most of your space. So I'm going to start by doing a little curved line like this, like kind of like make it look like he's sleeping. This is the best way I find to make them even, because you're not committing to the whole eye. You're just kind of starting out with a line. Yeah, that's a great idea, actually. Sounds like a lot of work, though. But maybe I'll try it out. Okay, so the little eyes are closed. You can also keep them closed if you like. Some people might like that. But now that you have the little curved lines, they should be pretty even, right? So we're going to start bringing it up like that. Close it, and then this one up. I find mostly people have issues with making their eyes look symmetrical or, the same. But I always say, like, they don't have to be perfect, or they should be like sisters, not twins, Cute. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So the little owl is basically looking down, essentially. So you're going to do a round shape inside of here. It should take most of the eye. So it looks a little bit like that. Yeah. And then the other one is going to be kind of, so you want to draw him a little bit cross-eyed, I guess you could say. But he doesn't have to be completely cross-eyed. You just want the pupils to be kind of looking downward a little bit. And these eyes can be adjusted as when we start painting too, so it should be fine. Thank you. Yes, he is very cute. I thought he was adorable when I'm a huge fan of owls. There. Okay, we'll leave it at that. I think he looks pretty cute enough in terms of eyes. You don't have to do anything else for the eyes. You just want to adjust the little, what do you call it? The little pupils as much as you can. Because everything else we're going to paint together. And it kind of looks like he's wearing eyeliner a little bit almost. So just make sure. This one you can actually sketch over pretty thick. So you don't have to make it nice and light. You can actually thicken it up a little bit, because he has an outline to it, him anyway. Yeah, like, so see how his eyes are very outlined? So it's not actually eyeliner, but it's okay if you make them nice and dark. Oh, that's so nice, Marie. Congratulations. Okay. There we go. So I think we can leave it as like this for now. And then that's pretty much it. So everything else we're going to be painting, basically. You can do a little bit of the branches. So we can do a really light sketch of it, but you don't really need to. You kind of just want to see where they're going to be. So I'm going to very lightly make a little branch here so that I know it's coming out from there. You don't have to do the green part, because with the pencil, it's just going to make it muddy. So you can just do the branches themselves, and then maybe one coming out this way, like that. So the reason, what's it called? It's okay if you make it with like you darken it with your pencil. It's because it's going to be dark brown anyway, so it should be okay. Oh, this border. So I put washi tape on it, but it's a really cute washi tape. It's like little dogs. They're really cute. I got like the cutest washi tape, so it's kind of sad because then you have to throw it out after. But yeah, it's just washi tape around it. So I usually don't do it for the originals because I kind of just go for it. But then this ones, I love doing that. So then there's going to be another branch over here. You can put your branches wherever you like. Maybe you want them in different places. That's okay with me. Just kind of have fun with where you put them. Yeah. The drawing, so you can definitely rewind this or watch it over from the beginning, Marie. But the drawing is very, very simple. There's nothing crazy in terms of like details because a lot of it is you want to keep it nice and light. So when you paint it, so see how the trees behind the little owl, those ones are going to be fully just painted with watercolor. We're not going to sketch them out. You can sketch them out technically, but they're going to be very simple to do, I promise. Okay. So I did my branches. I know it looks a little crazy. They just look like lines, but you'll see how they kind of, they're good to know where you're going to put your branches. But we are going to be doing the trees behind first. I mean, before we colored this part right here. Yeah. Yes, it's watercolors. You can use acrylics if you like. Like you can use really watered down acrylics. That's totally fine, I think. Yeah, or even watercolor pencil crayons work really well too with this one. All right, so I'll show you which brushes we're going to be using. This one is a number 1. You can definitely use smaller though. And then this one is a number 4. So these are the 2 main ones I'm going to be using. But you can use smaller ones as well, especially for the smaller videos. I think I have a smaller one actually somewhere. Oh, there it is. I have a tiny one that sometimes I like to use for the little feathers. Sorry, like the little feathers at the top. All right. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get started. You don't have to necessarily wet your paper necessarily. You can if you like to. It just depends on how thick your paper is. So my paper is, it's like watercolor paper, but it's not like super, super thick. So I usually just wet my brush and you can go about it different ways, right? So you can kind of wet your brush clean and you can kind of start going into the body. Oop, my brush had a little bit of pigment, sorry. There we go. So I'm just going into the body with some water. This gives me more control than spraying my paper, and that's why I'm doing it this way. There's a lot of different techniques you can do. Okay, so I put a little bit of water inside the body. And then you want to kind of play around with your browns. So I have a lot of like orangey browns that I don't really necessarily like. You want to kind of use something like this that is a little bit more toned down and more grayish, I guess you could say. Sometimes I kind of blend it and I wash it out and just see what color. You shouldn't be afraid of putting down a color because you're going to just do a really nice wash first of one color and then you're going to add to it. Okay, so I'm just going to start going downward. Make sure that most of your movements when you're adding the pigment are going downward. Okay, because you want to consistently be putting the hair around the little bird, the little owl. So you want to make sure that you kind of, just as you would color one way, you want to do the same thing in this scenario. Yeah, so it gives us a nice little depth and dimension around him without having to do much, right? And then basically what we're doing is we're going to start layering it. We're just going to start layering some feathers. I would suggest kind of not waiting too long in between layers because you want it to still have that nice little wet consistency. All right. And you're leaving kind of the middle a little bit clear. You can add a little bit of lines here and there, but you want most of the lines to be coming from the top here of the neck and the bottom. All right. He is very fluffy compared to my other one. He's definitely a little bit more fluffy. Okay, so I'm going to leave it alone for a little bit. Then you can go back into the head and kind of figure out where you want the color to be. So I'm going to have some color here. Give him some little, kind of like a tone or like a base almost, right? So you want him to have a nice little base. Well, so you always want to start really light and then kind of not be afraid of putting pigment. And also if you put too much, that's okay. Just add a little bit of water and then you can kind of blend it out a little bit as you go. Okay. And then here, now we have our nice little base, right? So the darkest part of the little owl is right up here. So just make sure that you consistently are adding to that area. I'm kind of thinking of it as an apple. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. And try to use your brush to your advantage. Like the brushes are the best tool. Like the way that they are shaped, we can use them. I use them a lot too when I do flowers, or feathers are probably the best part. Okay. So here I'm just consistently adding. The more I add, the more I'm like, okay, I think I can start adding more darker spots here. So I can consistently, and if I feel like I want to drag it out a bit more, I just add more water. Like that. And then some of the darker areas are around the face here. So that's something that you can definitely do. So the hair on the top here is going to be growing like the opposite way. So you don't want it to be going down. You want it to kind of be going upward, because the hair on the top of this little owl is going to be upward. Something like that. Yes, that's right. And don't worry too much about the colors in terms of, as long as you're going from light to darker, you can definitely play around with the colors. And the more layers you add, the better, to be honest. So I'm adding like another grayish. This little owl is a little bit more light, I'm finding, than my original one. But then I could always go back and add more little. He looks like he has a little comb over. He's so cute. There we go. So afterwards, you can add a little bit more grayish color. So I'll add a little bit of black here to my brown, because I don't have a very good brown. I kind of ran out of it. So see how I made it darker, a little bit of a darker one? Yeah, it literally looks like that. And then he starts to kind of have more little feathers coming out. But you don't want to forget about the rest of the body. So you still want to kind of play around with your brush and kind of drag out the colors as much as possible. There we go. And maybe one side could be a little bit darker than the other. You're just kind of playing around with the colors. Would acrylic paints work with watercolor? Yeah, so they definitely can. I use sometimes like white acrylic for like highlights and stuff like that. Do you mean like combine them, or do you mean like putting them on top of watercolors? Yeah, so I definitely think you can. I personally haven't done that so far, except when I have to do like a highlight, I'll use white acrylic for like sections, but I haven't yet combined them or like use them on top of watercolor. I think it should be fine. I just don't want to say yes and then it doesn't work. Oh, I see. Okay, so if you run out of a color, it will just change the consistency of your paper. So if you, for example, if you had brown and you added like, you know what I mean? Yeah, like a darker like color on top of it, it won't blend the same way, right? It'll kind of, because acrylic dries so quickly, it'll just kind of, it might ruin it a little bit. So I would only suggest to use it for little parts, like little sections. Okay, so notice how I'm adding a lot of water to kind of melt the colors a little bit so that, oh, I see what you mean. So water it down really well. Okay, then yeah, but again, it will still dry a lot faster than watercolor, so you just have to work a little bit quicker. I think that's the only way that it would probably work. So in order for the colors not to be super thick, you want to still add a little bit of water here and there. And we're going to be adding some dark colors around. It's okay if they get inside of the face a little bit. You kind of want that actually. So I'm going to start bleeding out the colors a little bit into the face, like going inward. So, but notice how his hair is kind of coming out of his face like this. Sorry, growing outward like that. So he doesn't have too much, but there's still a little bit there. And now if you want to place things, place pigment, you just have to make sure you water your brush a lot. So that way the colors kind of bleed nicely. See how it kind of, watercolor is really fun to use on its own. Like it just kind of does its own thing. That's why I like it so much. Because you just can put a brush stroke with water and then boom, it kind of does crazy things. Okay, it's looking cute so far. I'm just going to start to add some dark, really, really dark colors at this point, right? Because what I want is to really create that nice contrast. So the darkest brown you have, if you don't have a really dark brown, mix it up with black and make sure that you blend it, combine it so it's a nice dark color, okay? Oh, no, that's okay. You could rewind it a little bit too if you need to, okay? It should be fine. I'm just gonna slowly get in this little section right here. Make sure that your brush is never too dry. You still want it to be nice and wet. Not soaking because then it doesn't put the pigment on properly, but just enough that you can play around with the color. Oops. Sorry, my dog. My dog is very loud. I don't know if you could hear him. There we go. So the whole goal is that you can't really see his little feathers, right? Like they're kind of tucked in into his body. And we can add a little bit here. A little bit here. Maybe a little bit here. So you just want to keep adding these dark colors as you go. But make sure that, make sure that you are able to blend it out still. But what I always tell people, like, don't be afraid of, you can even color the little nose with the brown, because we're going to go over it anyway. But don't be afraid of pigment, because I find that's what people are usually most afraid of, putting down the pigment. Don't stress out too much. There we go. That way it's nice, and once the eyes are added, it's going to really pop. So watercolor always has an ugly face. Did you guys know that? I'm sure you guys knew that. But yeah, the ugly face is a tough one. So I'm just adding some dark color up here, which you can start doing as well. Hi guys, welcome in. Nice to have you. Happy Friday. Doesn't feel like a Friday, but I'm happy to have everybody. He has a little bit of a crazy hair going on, but that's okay. He looks cute. Okay, so I'm going to leave him as is for now. And then you can take, we're going to do the eyes next because they're nice and cute. You can always add more after, you could add a little bit more texture afterwards, but we're going to leave him as like this for now. And then kind of work around him a little bit. This one's a little bit bigger than my original owl, if you didn't notice. This one could be like the big brother or something. Okay, so the eyes are actually yellow inside. So you can take any yellow color you'll have, but a warmer yellow is probably better. So I'll show you what color I have here. Something like this is nice, like a golden yellow like that. Can you kind of see that? Something like that would be nice. But honestly, there's no like wrong color. You just want to make sure that you color it yellow. I'm going to do nice yellow here. We are going to put a little bit of white inside to make it look a little bit better. It's going to, like I said, this is the ugly face, guys, so bear with me. I actually don't mind coloring the whole eye yellow because we're going to use black to do the rest of it. So don't worry if you want to put all the yellow inside. Okay. And then, so for the eyes, just just make sure that your brush is nice and dry. So for this part, you definitely don't want it to be, what's it called? Wet. Like you do want to have your brush wet, obviously, but just make sure that it's more pigment than wet. So I'll show you what I mean. Because like remember I said it looks like eyeliner? This is why. Because you want the black to kind of come off like this, like eyeliner. So you want it to have enough water that it goes in smoothly, but you want it to be nice and, what's it called? Dry so that it doesn't bleed through. You know what I mean? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. So this part is going to be nice and black, the eye. Just going to color in the eye. And you actually can go ahead and outline it. Just be careful. Make sure that the eye is not wet. Because black is an intense color. And honestly, what makes the owl's eyes is the highlight that I'm going to add at the end. Before that, it just kind of looks a little creepy. Yeah, you definitely don't want it to bleed through or anything. But if it does, don't worry. The nice thing about watercolor, though, it does activate. So it's not the end of the world. I've messed up my eyes before. So I do, yeah, like with other paintings. And I still was able to fix it. You just have to know how. And watercolor activates. So his little eyes are so cute. Yeah, it literally looks like eyeliner to me. That's what I thought about. But what makes him cute is going to be the highlight, which you will see how it looks. Now, while we have the black, I'm going to go ahead and do the nose here. So I'm going to color this part black. Something like that. But this part right here, the other side, you don't want to leave it brown. Yeah, you're right. So if you needed to fix it, basically you just have to wet your brush and activate it again, like the water, the paint, and then just smear it basically. And then so that way it gets nice and light. And then you just put the color again on top. So it's very workable, I guess, if you know what. So I'm just going to take some white and some black so that I have a nice little gray. And I'm going to do the other half gray. And there we go. I know, sorry, that was a really quick explanation. And then you want to do a couple of little feathers coming out this way. Yeah, exactly. So we have his little nose here. He looks really cute. Oh, did it? Okay, let me know if it stays frozen. That's not good. Or let me know if anybody else has it frozen too. Okay. Yeah, it might just be the internet sometimes. So now we're gonna go with a straight. So the way that you make it look like really dark brown is if you don't have a lot of water and mostly just pigment. That's how you get it to be nice and solid. So see? Okay, perfect. Just making sure. So yeah, these little areas here that give it a lot of contrast. I'm just going in basically with the color and not a lot of water. Just enough water to spread it out, but you want to make sure that he looks like he has a little comb over. That's so cute. That it's nice and dark. Sorry, no, it looks like his hair is like parted. It's not intentionally, but it's so cute. You know what I mean? So I'm adding a lot of brown color here, but just very solid brown to the very ends. You know what kind of owl he looks like? He looks like the owl from Sleeping Beauty. That's what he keeps reminding me of. I don't know if you guys have seen it, like the original animation. Maybe a little bit more 3D, but is that his name? Because that's really cute. All right. So at this point, we're just adding the last layer of thickness to the feathers here. So he has a nice little dark spot here. And if you want to add like little bits of water. Oh, thank you so much. The baby deer was really fun. Can you tell I have a thing for baby animals? Okay, sorry, I forgot to say what I was doing here. So I added some little splotches of water, and then I just added some pigment so the pigment can kind of bleed out around areas, just to make it look a little bit more interesting. Okay, let me know if anybody missed that, because otherwise I'll do it again. So I just added like clear water to subsection, and then you can add some pigment kind of randomly all throughout. All right, makes sense? Okay, he's looking cute. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so now for the eyes, I know it's yellow here, but you do want to add, so if you have a white acrylic, that's awesome for the hair, so for the eyes, but you can use a little bit of white, what do you call it? White watercolor and a little bit of that yellow and just go over the eye so that the yellow is not so intense. You don't have to do this if yours is not like this, but mine was looking a little bit intense, so I'm just changing it a bit. All right. Okay, perfect. Now I'm going to go ahead and get started on the little branch. So you can change your brush to a bigger brush. And then, yeah. Oh, I love gouache. I actually love using gouache, but I feel like a lot of people maybe don't enjoy it as much. It is a very tricky medium. It's like a combination between watercolor and acrylic. Like that's literally how I think of it. Now for the tree, you want to use one base color. So I'm going to use this brown. And then I'm going to darken it a bit. It's okay if you go over the feet because we're going to paint the feet dark. So as long as you can still see them. There we go. And another thing that I like to do is add, so it's pretty watery, like the branch. It's not too like soaked, but it's still a little bit watery. You can add more pigment to it to give it more texture. Okay, go ahead. So the darker areas, I'm going to add some black and some brown. So it's a really dark color. And I'm just going to place it down on one side of my branch like this. Because I wanted to have some shadow. But look how nice that looks. Because, what's it called? The dark areas, it just looks like a shadow, right? But it looks very organic. So once this dries, you can add a couple more lines around, what do you call it? The tree branch. Yeah, so sometimes if your brush is like too wet, you'll end up taking away the shadow. So you have to be careful. But this one seems not too bad. There we go. Just like that. And then, so now you have to wait for it to dry to add the lines, right? Because my branch is super wet, so it's not going to work. Same with the feet. We're going to add the feet right after. Okay, perfect. All right, so the other thing we can do in the meantime is, yeah, to make it look more 3D, is adding the tree branches in the back. So to do that, very simple. You're just going to make your brush nice and wet, and you're going to have a little bit of pigment on your brush. Now it could be a brown or a little bit of a yellow. Just make sure it's, and if you want to test it out on another piece of paper, I suggest doing that. Let's see, just to give you an idea. This is kind of what you want. You want it to be really, really light, right? So you don't want it to be super pigmented like we did the first branch. We want it to be nice and light. Oh no, sorry, Marie. You can rewind it. But also, all I did was add a dark color in here, but the branch had to be wet so that I was able to kind of make it seem seamless, I guess you could say. All right, so the other trees are going to be added freehand. Trust me, it's very fun, and you shouldn't stress out too much about this, but make sure that your brush is nice and wet with a little bit of pigment. So it should be something like this. Not soaking, but definitely wet enough that you can do this by like nice and freely. And the farther away the tree branch is, the less you have to see it. So it would be a little bit less, like much lighter. And then maybe there's another one here. The reason why I love branches is because they're so forgiving. Like you can literally do no wrong because they can look as, messy as you want them to be. Something like that. So make sure they're not, like I said, super, super wet, just wet enough for you to be able to see them. And then maybe one more here. There we go. Oh no. I hate that. I used to get really bad migraines, so I totally understand. I get like a really bad pressure on my head and I can't see anything. But yeah, give this one a try. It's super fun. It's fairly low maintenance. But yeah, there we go. So I'm not going to do that many. Just a couple of tree branches I think is good. Just enough for you to kind of see them in there. All right. Now you can see if your tree branch is nice and dry, and we can go back to that dark brown or dark color, and you're going to use your brush to kind of create this nice little texture, kind of like a wooden texture, right? So we're going to do a bunch of lines here, just to give it that extra look of wood. Can you guys see that? I think you can see a little bit. It's a little bit far away. And then you want to do the little feet. You can actually paint those black first, and then you can add some gray to them. So I'm just going to paint them black to start. And then if you go in with some white, I'm running out of my white, but it's okay. Like this. They kind of look more like feet. They look like monkey feet. There we go. Can you guys see that a little better? Okay. Let me know if it's too dark or anything, okay? All right. Beautiful. So there we go. So some of the things that I did end up doing, but we'll do at the end. But we're going to start with just doing the little branches. So the little branches are going to be added with some dark brown. So you're just going to darken the lines. Don't stress out if it's not perfect, but this is why we sketched it, right? So that we were able to just do this freehand after. And then these ones are a little bit bigger than my original one just because it's a bigger paper. Is everybody ready for Christmas or not yet? Is it too rushed? There we go. Perfect. So we have our branches. They shouldn't be soaked. They should just be nice and thick. Thin, but very dark because they're going to be the inside of it, right? Okay, so my green is very bluish green. So see how it looks like teal or aqua, like they were saying? You can definitely mix it with some green, light green, so it's a little bit more earthy. Still looks teal. I don't know. Just use whichever green you like. There's no wrong green here. You can use whatever green you like. So I'll show you what paper I have that I'm using. I'm using this one. So it's Canson watercolor paper, Amazon. I think it's like $11. It's amazing. And it comes with like 30 pages. So it's really, really good. You can definitely use if the painting is not what do you call it? If your paper is not like it's like thick, it'll still take it because this painting, for example, doesn't need that much water. But yeah, definitely use. Mine is 300 grams. So here, I'll show you. So it's this much. You guys, I'll have it here for video for you guys to see. But I'm pretty sure this is the one that all the other artists use as well, like Vera and Christine, I think, uses this one as well. So it's a really good one. Yeah, it's great, right? I love it because for the price is amazing. Okay, so we're going to take some green here, some nice little green, and we're going to just basically use their brush and just start putting down the leaves. They don't have to be perfect right away because you're just kind of using your brush to kind of flick them. I do like this green actually because it's very, I don't want my leaves to look like palm trees, right? So the green, like a deeper green might work better. There we go. Yeah, in to out for sure. There's you could definitely do the other way, but it's just a better technique to do it, kind of flicking it out. And sometimes I'll forget and I'll just do it however your brush kind of looks. So if your brush is nice and thick, maybe you want to do it the other way, but you want the ends to be kind of pointy. You've seen trees with needles? What do you mean? There we go. I'm gonna make it nice and spread out. I know I've gotten used to it, so I try to slow down a little bit because I do end up going too fast. Oh, I see. Yeah. But you can layer these ones as well. So you can definitely start with a softer color and then put the deeper greens on top. Right. So I've gotten used to using the brush to like full advantage and just kind of go super fast. But the reason I go fast sometimes is because I'm putting out the color and then I go over it again with a little bit more, either more water or more pigment. So, and it can be a little bit thicker as well. Yes. Thank you so much. So it's just a nice little balance of color and water. And this one is actually going to be a little bit on top of the owl. So don't be scared of putting some of that on him. It actually will look a little bit cuter if it's a little bit overlapping on him. Right? Because that way he's kind of hiding in there. I can see how owls can be a little scary if you don't know they're there. So. There we go. So we're going to add some nice little... This green is really pretty. I think it's nice. Does it look like this? It does look a little bluish though, right? From your guys' perspective, I'm sure. It looks different and like in real life, like in person. So some of them can be some sections, like for example, right here, I want to do a little bit of a more watery look. So I'm just going over it with some water. And the nice thing is trying to overlap your work, right? You want to make sure that it's nice and overlapped. I've never seen that before, like an owl in a pet store. But I believe you. They were just hiding the secret owl. Well, yeah, I don't, because I think because they're like, what do you call them? Like wild animals, I guess, technically. But I've seen some people have them as pets, like the little tiny ones on videos. I don't know how legal that is though, but you know, they're there. Okay, I'm doing my last branch now with a little bit more water here. Oops, there we go. So another thing I was thinking about is that the reason I also use washi tape is so that my paper doesn't morph as much. Morph, is that the word? Like bend. See how my little paper here is really bended? It won't bend as much with the washi tape. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm wrong, but for some reason it always works really nicely for me. So keep that in mind when you're doing yours. Because it really like sticks it down, or I don't know, weights it down a little bit more. I don't know what it is, to be honest. Okay, so there's our beautiful little branches. You can definitely add more if you like. It's up to you. But our little owl is looking a little bit too perfect, right? He's looking a little bit too rounded. He still looks cute. Yeah, painter's tape is great. Just be careful because I used to use painter's tape as well, and then it would rip my page unless you wait for it to completely be dried. But painter's tape can be a little bit harsh, I find, when it comes to like taking it off. But maybe I was being too harsh with it too. So, okay. So our little owl is looking too perfect. So we're going to do this. We're going to add a little bit of water around him. It's okay if there's a little bit of green here. We're just going to add a little bit of water around him, like on the sides here. And I'll show you why, because we're going to add a little bit of brown and just kind of put down some pigment here. See how it kind of starts to bleed out? That's kind of what you want to do. So it starts to look a little bit more kind of bleeded, like bleeds a little bit more. And it's not as perfect. You can do the same thing over here. Just so you can make your little owl a little bit more imperfect, I guess you could say. Because he's looking really cute and really big. Okay, so my water's a little bit green, so I'm actually going to use my little spray now. So this little spray is really great because it's so tiny and it has a lot of precision. So I'm just going to add a little bit of water down here, this little spot right here. And then I'm going to add some brown here. Maybe a little bit less. Just be careful with how much you add. Really? Well, I still dip it. That was an accident. Oh, well. You don't necessarily have to do this part. I just like to add a little bit of kind of texture and yeah, blending it in a little bit with the background. That's kind of what I want. Like the little owl, you want to have him a little bit less perfect, a little bit more textured. Which you could have done in the beginning as well. So instead of following the shape as much, you could have done that. It's just up to you how you wanted him to be. There we go. He looks cute. Just adding a little bit more color here, more texture. Beautiful. Now the leaves here can be as dark as you want them to be. You don't necessarily want them to be see-through. So you can definitely go over them with a dark, really dark green so that they don't look see-through. Especially the ones that are on top of the branch, right? You want them to be nice and dark. I recommend the closest ones, which would be down here, would have much more pigment. There we go. Yeah. So initially, I would have probably left a little bit more areas like lighter, but I ended up adding too much of it, but that's okay. You can always go back. And so this would be a good placement for white acrylic right here on top of him. Just a little bit. I think that will look really nice. And then let's do the little red parts of it. We're going to do the splatter at the very end of it, okay? But the little circles are like, I don't know what they're called, but they're always like in Christmas stuff. Anybody know the name of them? Just going to do a couple. You can kind of place them wherever you want. I'm just going to place one here. This is freehand, by the way. Like you can't sketch them, but they don't have to be perfect. So you don't have to stress about making them look perfect. And maybe one here. And then maybe one here. You can have as many as you want though. Something like that. And then you can wet your brush and kind of flick them a little bit. If you want a little bit of red and a little bit of green. Now, when I do that, I do dab it sometimes with a paper towel. I don't have my paper towel right now, but you can dab it a little bit so it's a little bit softer looking. But so it doesn't look like blood. You can add a little bit of green as well. So that way it's nice and Christmassy looking. The splatter is completely optional. You don't have to do the splatter. I just enjoyed it a little bit. And then obviously the most important part is the little highlight. So with the highlight, I do recommend using a white acrylic for it. I unfortunately don't have one, so I have to use my watercolor ones, which is not the best, but it's not the worst either. So I'll show you what it looks like. And it's kind of hidden in this mess. It's right about here. It's in this very corner. It's just a little tiny bit of white. Now the white should be nice and pigmented. And the white is going to be right over here. A little one here. Get a little bit bigger. And another one here. Then the other one's going to be right over here. You can add as many as you want, like highlights, but I'd usually just add 2. Like maybe one over here. And then I also want to add a little bit of highlight on the nose here. But this one's not too bad, so I still can add a little bit of white feathers on the chest here. Because it's not too bad. The thing about this one is that it dries really pale. You know what I mean? So it's not the greatest, but it's okay. Yeah, the splashing looks pretty. It's not too much. I definitely added more on this one, but I might add some more after on this one. We'll just see. Because sometimes I'll wait to see how it looks when it's dry and then figure it out from there. But now you can also add a little bit of highlight over here. So that the eyes are not like super yellow, but oh, that must have been pretty. I would have loved to use. I haven't used pastels in so long, but I do love that. There we go. And there he is. So the highlight is the most important part I find for the eyes part. I also might want to add a little bit more black to the eye. This is optional though. You don't have to. I just want to add a little bit more because my original one has much thicker eyeliner. But you don't have to. I just like the way it looks. Okay, that should be good enough. And then maybe actually bring it down a little bit more here. Cute. So initially for this one, the original one, I did have a shadow over here that I had added. You don't have to do that. It's just supposed to be like a shadow for one of the tree branches. But I didn't love how it looks, so you don't have to add it. I'm adding it just because it's in my original one, but you definitely don't have to have it there because it's kind of just in his little face, but it looks okay. Thank you. Perfect. And then anything else you might want to add to it, feel free to do that. You know, you can add a little pine cone or you can write Merry Christmas down here. Now I'm just going to show you how it looks without the tape. Even this tape sometimes can be a little bit iffy, like in terms of taking it off. And it sticks really well. That's the problem. But you'll notice how much less my paper is morphed. So there we go. But it adds a really nice little frame to the painting. So I really enjoy doing it. You just have to be careful because I would rip. I think a couple of events I've done it before where I used to use painter's tape and definitely rip my paper. And it's devastating. Right. Let's see this one. I'm just going to take it off from here. It's a little tedious to take off because it sticks really well. There we go. But then it looks really nice and cohesive. Yeah, the framing looks nice. It's definitely, you know, especially if you want to go ahead and frame it, or you can even put something in the frame, like a writing or something. But yeah, there we go. So it's a little bit lighter, I find. I think he looks really, really cute. I might have made him a little bit darker than this one. This one has a little bit more warmer tones, but still turned out really pretty. Like I said, you can definitely add more to it as you go. But yeah, does anybody have any questions? Let me know. If not, I'm just going to. So my next event is on the 20th. It's a winter horse, but that one is I believe it's a paid event. And then after that comes the December. Let me just share the event with you guys if I can find it somewhere. There we go. But yeah, if anybody has any questions about any materials or any colors, you guys ask really great questions. So I was happy with that. And hopefully I've answered everybody's questions and concerns with it. Like I say, you can watch this anytime you want. I'll be here for you guys. But yeah, I super appreciate you guys being here with me tonight. It was so much fun. Any tips are super appreciated always, obviously. But I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the weekend. Like I keep forgetting it's Friday. It's kind of crazy, but great. So happy to have you. Thank you for being so lively in the chat. Really enjoyed you guys' company. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next event, hopefully. Just hold on, let me just make sure that I have everything. Okay. But yeah, I don't think I see any questions, so I'm going to let you guys go. But have a good night. Thank you. Bye, everyone.